As we saw in LMP, big names in the frame, probably no major surprises. RHG on top of the pile, ahead of the 77 from Proton Coanda. ProDrive Fire, a great lap there in the end by Lasse Sorensen to get that car in. And then BMW Team BS competition with two BMWs, because Redline joined them in the top half dozen, and the second Proton Coanda esports car. So two BMWs, two Porsches, one Ferrari, and one Aston Martin. To go racing. The cars are at the end of the formation lap. The 24 Hours of Le Mans Virtual 2023 is just moments away. Porsche locked out the front row, but already Team Redline looking to try and take the advantage. We see this so often. Not the greatest getaway from the front row of the grid. And let's see if either of the Redline cars can take the lead into the first turn. The GT cars follow across the line. Again, it's the 888 Ferrari on pole position, and the BMW's behind. Key here is Redline car number 1. It looks like Max Verstappen taking the lead very quickly. Now, Max has been doing a lot of rehearsal, a lot of test racing, a lot of practice. He has tried and not had great success during the season, but it looks as though he is absolutely determined to deal with this race the same way that he does in Grand Prix racing and take the bulls by the horn right from the run down to the first corner.
The drivers independently around the world for both the 5 and the 53 car. How much information is moving around between you and the team when you're in the car?
Almost too much. We're in constant communication. It's a bit easier when we're here working from the factory, but obviously it's quite nice to race from home. You've got all your same rigs and it's nothing to get used to, but actually because we've got some really good sponsors on board, we can come to the factory. The sim rigs are exactly the same as I use at home, as Jack uses at home, so it's quite easy for us to just drive down here and get going. Rigs available all the time. Best of luck for the rest of the race. Will, when are you back in? I think I'll be back in about an hour. Thank you. Best of luck.
Live timing is showing that a couple of cars are stopping on circuit, including the 23 Porsche Coanda and the number 4 Floyd Wanwall. We are watching the Aston Martin D-Station machine that seems to be okay right now. But a couple of things going on out on circuit. Marla as well, and again ProDrive Fire Esports. So something happening out there, and it may well require an intervention. And this is D-Station in 4th position, being chased down by Kasdorp. Kasdorp was having to push hard because he was being chased down by Enzo Benito. Where is Benito? Look back, there he is in the big BMW. But this is for 4th position proper.
Yeah. This is after a fantastic start to the race. Whilst you monitor what's going on the timing screens there, Ben, this is a really good start from D-Station, but Yuri Kasdorp has now completed the chase. Has to put in a lot of effort to do this, and Kasdorp is now about to put a move here on the D-Station car. They move aside as one of the LMP cars, one of the Orica cars comes charging through. But are we going to see a move into Mulsanne corner? Let's jump on board then with Yuri Kasdorp, who's trying to get past Remy Delorme. Is he going to be brave enough on the brakes? He's certainly having a think about it. Not quite able to get through there, so we'll stay tucked in for the time being. But good stuff going on here between Remy Delorme for D-Station Racing. Of course, they ran a competition at the 24 Hour of Le Mans last year, did D-Station. They held hot lap competition, and the top 2 drivers are the 2 ones competing for D-Station alongside their pro drivers. But we're side by side, Ben.
Yuri Kasdorp round the outside now. These roads, these virtual roads, are where Remy Delorme will drive on a daily basis. He is driving from Le Mans. He was the man that won the competition. He ended up winning Sebastian Buemi's race-winning helmet that he has sitting beside him in his rig. We had a shot of that yesterday. And so Remy, knowing these roads incredibly well, usually having to overtake trucks and cars and people going to work rather than being able to race around them. But doing a really good job for D-Station. I think that is why we've seen, there is that helmet, look, absolutely stunning, and I think that's why we've seen a step up in performance from D-Station here at Le Mans, because it's a bit of a specialist circuit for half the team.
I think you're exactly right there, and Remy Delorme has done a really good job there. There you can see winner of the Le Mans Virtual Activation 2022, and you can see the prizes Ben mentioned behind him in the background, and the even bigger prize here of racing in the 24-hour Le Mans Virtual for D-Station. They do drop to 5th place. We've got pit stops going on at the head of the field. Luke Browning brings Team Redline in. Graham Carroll does the same for AMG Team Petronas. So that is 2nd and 3rd place in. It looks like any problems that we were having on circuit has now stopped.
Internet issues or disconnects. Peugeot Esports down there in 25th position. Rocket at the very bottom of the field. In the GTE category, it's been plain sailing for Proton Coanda. Oracle Red Bull, we think up to 3rd position, but presumably BMW Team BS competition, one of the early disconnections, and therefore that's why they fell down a couple of positions. We've seen issues for the number 11. We've also had the 888 have problems, and the 95 with 2 disconnections early doors. They are down there in 14th position. But with a red flag, the only way that we can do anything about getting the race restarted is effectively a safety car restart. So we are going to go back to green flag conditions. We have one long queue of cars with the GTE machines at the back of the queue. And at the moment, it looks nice and bright, and we can go racing once more. Led away by Coanda number 20, that's led the race since lap 8, but followed incredibly closely now by the number 1 machine. And they all fan out. Progress needs to be made from the Mercedes in 3rd position, but the number 1 machine is right under the tail of the 20, and much like what happened at the start of the race, 1 putting huge pressure on number 20, loses the rear end going into the first chicane, keeps it all gathered together. It's very, very close further back. Hopefully everyone is nice and clean. The right-hand side is a very nice and clean start from the Coanda Proton cars line astern. Now, it does suggest that people are in the pits. Ignore that. That data is also not correct.
The timing tower that we've got there on the left, as they come through the first sector, it should update and bring us back into line, but don't worry too much about it. Alpine, who have made great progress throughout the race after qualifying in 10th position, they're now up into 4th position. Colin Spork, I believe, is behind the wheel right now. So before 2023 Formula Sim, 2022 rather, Formula Sim Racing World Champion, as we've got everyone sort of fanning around. There was another bit of a look there again from Browning trying to get past. You've got Ford Diller here trying to clear some of the lap traffic that's just dropping back. There's a bit of 3 wide as well in the background.
That's the delayed 23 machine trying to make up some ground in the middle of the pack. They are on the lead lap, and they're in 9th position now. So from massive loss of time, 2 or 3 minutes, they are really much more back in the hunt of things. In the GTE category, 77 leads 88. They do have a lap over the BMW BS Team competition car, so that is interesting that the race direction has done that, and effectively Proton Coanda now, it's theirs to lose, because they have a whole lap advantage over the rest of the GTE field. Brabham looking really strong here in 7th position.
Slap traffic they're trying to get past though.
Williams Esports is the next car up the road, the number 5 just going out of shot there, so it's really close. 3 wide as Van der Heide defends going into Mulsanne.
But that 101's not for position. I don't know why they're fighting that. So that 101 is Liam DeVal, who's just got past his teammate Yannick Bock there with a bit of a doorbang. Of course, Yannick Bock's not racing with his normal simulator. Every time you see it, you think, God, it's getting quite close. I promise you, quite a lot of the drivers, when they look back at the replay, they're like, wow, this guy's getting way too close to that wall. And then when you're driving, you just do it as the line you typically take. This is in GTE and some of the battles in it, but again, hard to work out what is actually full position and what isn't. Oracle Rebel Racing Esports versus BS competition, at least for track position ahead. Meanwhile, this entire gaggle is trying to get past the number 71 Redline. There's the move to the outside from the 888 RAG, who send it into Indianapolis. Position made for the RAG team. Not quite yet.
No, because the circuit goes right at Arnage. 2 cars off. D-Station getting forced wide into the gravel. They're still side by side, but the 71 has the inside line for Arnage and holds position for the moment. This is much more like you see in GT racing at Le Mans. The first start, they all fanned out quite quickly, but Now they are locked together in a long queue, and when the LMP cars come in 5 laps time, it's going to be really hard to get through the traffic.
I'm not sure about this from the AAA outside of the Porsche curve. It's going to look for it, but thankfully had already done it, just had the overspeed off towards the Porsche curves off of Arnage, and that was the position already made up for the AAA. So that now heads this little train. You've got the 51 that will be queuing up to get past the BMW Team Redline. You can see it there, SFE Sports, SIM Maranello as well. 11. You've got Simmsa in there, and you've got Fire in there, which are not for position. You've got SIM Maranello off the back of it. You've got D Station, who are for position. Again, D Station actually having some very good pace. It did catch up. I think it's Remy DeLorme behind the wheel of that D Station guy, who was the winner in the real world, not the real world, but in actual Le Mans, won the activation competition, the hot lap competition there as well. He's got that helmet in the background. Again, fantastic driver, and has done good stuff for D Station rather, as he got the Project 1 Theory sports car. Just getting past some lap traffic, but again, not for position. Next up is that SFE sports car.
Do you feel reinvigorated?
How do you mean?
I feel reinvigorated.
A car that was there, and then I still maintain, I think that it might have been the next few Van.
They got tagged from behind coming out of Arnage and half spun, and there was somebody on the driver's right that actually tapped the nose of that Le Mans Cup, the Virtual Cup car straight, and then the bunch behind were sort of all bunched up, and that's where it all got triggered off. Very hard to sort of apportion blame, actually, because it was a NASCAR pack racing shunt, wasn't it? Somebody checks up because there's a car stationary in front, and then, yeah, the trigger effect goes all the way down the back. But, I mean, look at this. Look at that. I mean, OK, so the two Porsche Commander cars have jumped away, 99 and 89 have jumped away, and then you've got the pack. Yeah. And this is, I mean, this is like 80cc or 125 motorbikes, or it's like the peloton in Tour de France. They are all just sitting there in the draft, aren't they? And they are just looking for somebody to make a mistake.
Well, with the Fire car that's sat at the front there, they don't have to necessarily battle them too hard, because the Fire car's there. So if you're the SF car, if you're SIM Maranello, you're like, perfect. Oh, as I think we might have had another technical. We'll take a look at the
hours in, and 16.5 hours to go as we get ready to, are we going to go green this time around? Not hearing Eduardo Freitas, he is in the room just behind us. And here we go, sounds like we go green here. We do go green flag racing. It is 4:29, I beg your pardon, 16 hours and 29 minutes of the race remaining. 21:30 Central European time as we get back underway. LMPs and GTs, and of course, when we came off the last red flag, the whole field was compressed, and we did have a lot of high-speed pack racing incidents. Let's hope there are slightly fewer of those this time round.
Unlike the beginning of the race, Coanda able to keep the lead as they head out onto the Mulsanne straight. We'll update you on the drivers in these cars as they cycle through, but the Coanda, number 20, the pole-sitting car, leads the way then down towards the first chicane, but will Redline have something to say about it on this restart?
Well, it is Josh Rogers, the man who set that astonishing lap in qualifying to go 8 tenths clear of anybody else, and then claim pole by 2 tenths over the sister car. He leads from Jeffrey Rietveld. Looking down in the battle further back, pink and white car there. That is easy to pick out, the Pescarolo car. That is then about the battle for 22nd, 3rd, 4th. You can just see ahead of that little group disappearing away is Michi Hoyer, who is in the green 444 car, the Next View Van der Waal car. That's 22nd. So it's Luc Duval for GR. And then Veyron in the Peugeot and Imburg in the Pescarolo car, with Vincent Capillière in the Graf racing machine behind. Vincent Capillière, a real-life Graf racer and a sim Graf racer.
The Floyd Van Waal burst, so Ben Viscal, another very quick peddler. He also has for company Porsche Supercup racer Maurice Skuring for the number 23 Porsche Coanda. So some big names in the championship there, all starting to queue up in and around the top 5. That's an area of the field we're going to have to keep a close eye on.
Yeah, Ben Viscal, a man with prototype experience for Algarve Pro, amongst others, driving in the European Le Mans Series, of course, a serial competitor in FIA Formula 3, and coming to coming to a sim racing forum near you. Always seems to be logged on, Ben Viscal. So good to see him in the race. Good to see Graham Carroll moving back through the field as well. Whatever was befalling that AMG Team Petronas car early on in the race, Bonahuis jumped in that car in 4th place and then really struggled for pace after the restart that we had a few hours ago. They kind of continued to descend through the order, struggling for pace, but it looks like whatever the problem was, they've sorted it and are now on race-leading pace. Whether the track's just come to them or they had a little bit of damage they've now sorted out, but they've managed to hone the car in and are moving back to the right end of the field.
Doing really great stuff. We'll monitor that over the next few laps. Likewise with this as well, Jaden Comright, a man who does a lot of his racing over in the States. They're closing in here on Charlie Fagg, the D-Station racing driver in that 777, trying to hang on to what would be the best ever result for that team and beat their current best result of a 7th place, but they are in danger of dropping back, not only on Comright, but Behrman is also closing in on these guys as well. So it is hard to know where to look in this race. 14 hours remaining, and there is a lot of battling going on up and down the order, and we could about to see a change here. Comright getting closer and closer to that D-Station car as they hit the brakes into the chicane. No changes this time, but I think into the next braking zone, Alex, we could see a move.
Charlie Fagg defending with everything that he's got in that 777 and down towards Indianapolis. Charlie Fagg takes the inside line, the only way to defend. Actually, they're coming down into what looks to be the the second chicane. Having looked down to see where Charlie Fagg has placed in previous iterations of the race, well, he is going to place one position back as it's going, because that Red Bull has managed to make his way past the D-Station Aston Martin. But Charlie Fagg unable to hold on to the position and will have to continue making progress.
Well, Alex, we've had you around Williams, we've had you around Mercedes, we've had you here in the commentary box for the last 2 hours or so. What have you made of what you've seen so far on the track, off the track as well? What have you made of the third running of the 24-hour Le Mans Virtual so far? Because I know we're going to see you back, of course, tomorrow. I'm very much impressed by the level of driving that's being undertaken by both pro race car drivers and, as always, sim racing pros. But what an incredible day to meet a couple of these teams, see how their operations work, and it's going to be an interesting race through to the end. I'm blown away by how close it is at the front of the field. The runners and riders, the race is starting to take shape, isn't it, after those unfortunate red flags earlier on in the event. So I'm going to throw myself at a bed for a few hours, I think, just so I'm speaking a little more sense when I wake up. And but I can't wait to see what the situation will be to take us through to the final hours. Can Redline cling on to this one? Can Coanda recover after mysteriously losing that little bit of time? All remains to be seen. I guess it's almost like when you raced in it yourself. You wake up to, where are we now? What's our situation now? I imagine it's almost like the same thing. But we thank you very much for joining us up here. We will recap as to where we are very, very shortly. Ben Constanduris is on standby to come back in. But for now, we are going to follow this battle just a little bit. This is Red Bull versus D-Station. D-Station doing a good job to hang on so far and hang on with the Oracle Red Bull Racing team, who have got through. But Ollie Behrman is now the one next along. They're going to have to keep an eye on there. He is very hard on strategy, and that is exactly what we're seeing. Team managers and people working on data, and it's been fantastic to be able to show that to the rest of all of you viewers.
If you are wanting to follow closely with us, we obviously have the live timing board on the left-hand side there. That tells you where each car is, but if you needed more information, like who's driving that car, then you can head over to livetiming.alcamelsystems.com/Le Mans Virtual Series, or LM Virtual Series. Give that a search on Google and it will come up, but there is a live timing out there thanks to Al Kamel, our timing systems, and that will give you the drivers that are in the car and much more information than we're able to give you at the moment on our live timing tower on the left hand side, although at least the tower now scrolls, so we get a chance to see the top and the bottom of it.
D station on screen, fighting away with Redline, continuing to fight away, shall we say, because I'm sure they swapped places a little while ago and now they have stayed together. So good job by Charlie Fagg there, who's in the car for them. D station chasing after Rudy Van Buren. Of course, he was battling away with Casper Stevenson a little while ago, so this might have been a case of catching and passing the D station car, and that would put Rudy Van Buren up into 5th place. RHG next up the road, 12.4 seconds ahead.
For those of you that really need the actual figures on track and air temperature, air temperature is, well, here's a weird one. I'm not sure this is quite right, but I'm going to read out what I've been told.
Okay.
22 air temperature, 18 track temperature.
Right.
Usually it's the other way around. Usually track is warmer than air, but maybe that in the night that's not necessarily the case. We were 25 degrees when we started the race, and I think the track was 27 when we started the race, so a bit of a difference, and that will have an effect on the way that the tyres feel, how long they can be pushed for and all the rest. And the weather will be set fair for the remainder, unless we get one of those freak Le Mans storms, which has happened, does happen quite a lot, but usually you can see them on the horizon.
Did you ever get caught in one in the pit lane?
Oh, yes.
What was that like?
Wet.
Decent cheddar cheese. It's just, it is part of this, but as sim racing grows, the idea of picking up sponsorship to actually pay for those kind of things is more of an understandable, an acceptable medium, because there are more eyes on. Sponsorships are more willing to put a decent amount of cash down for you to then go after a decent pro driver to put them at the front, or you pick up a few decent sim drivers and then you work really, really hard to try and do something very, very special, and then you try pulling off that something special, like what D Station have done. They have put in the hard work and are in 7th position at the moment, challenging SIM Maranello, who are pole sitters in this season, back in the previous round in Sebring, who were podium finishers and race leaders. They were battling properly for the race win at Sebring. We'll have you remember about the SIM Maranello team. And now it seems as though D Station might be going for a move. Going one way and then back the other, and this is D Station's opportunity to come through. It'll be the outside of the first chicane on the Mulsanne, and this should be the attempt. It should be complete and it should be quite easy. Certainly is. So Marc Veit gets past Patrese. Is it the first chicane on the Mulsanne that's been called the Daytona chicane? Do you know? I thought
no. I think, isn't the Daytona chicane the first part of the Ford chicane?
Ooh, I don't know.
I think it was very controversially that.
Well, I've always said when it comes to corner names, if you are going to have a corner name on a circuit, you can't change an already existing corner name.
Far too many sponsor names.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, let's not start talking about Spa. It's like, oh, good, here's a corner with 3 different names.
Yeah, exactly.
Because me and Martin were having this discussion, because I was sat there and I kept calling it Rivage. He was like, yeah, it's Bruxelles. And I was like, well, here's no name. He was like, well, that's Speaker's Corner or X. And I was like, right, here we go.
Yeah, now it's X.
X curve, yeah.
Spa's the worst for that, to be honest.
It is pretty bad. And then every time I kept saying the Parabolica, on any broadcast around Monza, someone will instantly correct me and call me as saying it's the Michele Alboreto. Many questions have, many points have come in. Yeah, they are kind of questions.
Okay,
towards the no, 68 days in January.
Only 68 days left. Yeah. Well, it's
come up like 3 times.
30 days has September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31, excepting February alone, which has 28 days bright and clear, and 29 in each leap year. And January has 74.
Nice. There you go.
That's the rhyme that all kids learn. So only another 36 behind. The BS competition BMW was very lucky not to get swiped by that. Now, we got
the 777.
It is 777.
No, not the D-station car. That is coming down into Indianapolis, and that D-station car is
stationary. He's spun, but he hasn't hit anything.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
100% sure.
Where are you? Unless he tagged the inside of the barrier, turning right.
I have seen people go into that barrier on what would be closest to the camera, or even that one over on the right-hand side. The fact that he's not got back going again leaves me with some fairly large concerns there for the 777. Marc Veit behind the wheel. This car has done... Oh, I think they've...
he's flicking on and off, so he's had a disconnect, hasn't he? And that the camera then automatically... What happens there is, why do we get the pit lane shot? And I didn't understand until I was watching, and as it sweeps by, the cameraman pans with it flawlessly. To get that in the real world, Olivier Denis and Natasha, the AD, are telling the camera, and go with the red car, the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th car back or whatever. This is D-station on board.
They've just pulled off. Have they blown the... Well, you wouldn't blow the engine at that point. And it's definitely not run out of fuel. And obviously the engine is running.
Got no gears. Got no gears.
Potentially, but you'd still be able to bring it back to pit lane. No, they shifted
got
there.
No throttle or something.
They shifted there.
Yeah.
Potentially the throttle is a thing. The engine didn't blow because the engine was running, and also you wouldn't have shifted down. But I doubt it would have let go like that. I do not know as to what's happened to the 777. It could be a technical fault.
Yeah.
Now, if that is the case, and the way they might have disconnected, they might still be able to rejoin, but they will be way back.
Fortilla in the pit out of the top 2. They're back in the top 2 again.
I'm sorry, the chat have asked a few times now, as we've got D-Station back out on the road. What height are you? Because they want to know how many Martin Havens it takes to do a lap of Le Mans.
What, laid down end to end?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, D-Station are moving again.
What are your vertical digits? That's a lovely way of putting it.
I used to say 6'6". I'm probably actually more like 6'4" now, because I've spent my entire life, as you do when you're tall, just stooping a lot to hear what's going on. Yeah, because everybody else is about a foot below your ear level, and particularly at loud racetracks. Yeah, D-Station car definitely has a big issue, doesn't it? But driving back doesn't seem to be...
No, I think so. Whatever issue they've had, they'll be able to drive back in to get into the pit lane to then actually get Marc Veit out of the car, but unfortunately a decent result.
Because you can't swap drivers when the car is out on track, because that at least is real-world relevant. You just can't be doing that sort of nonsense. So he's got to get it back, has to get back under its own steam. Proton Coanda 77, is that still running?
The 77, no.
Okay, so that's Charlie Collins and his team are out. So, okay, right. So that is... Yeah, so... Hang a minute.
Oh, apparently Evan Dalton's got an answer as to how many... this will be good. How many
of course it is a calculator job. 1 metre... Let's say it's 1 metre 95, which makes it even easier.
They did have... So they worked out earlier what an average baguette was, which was 0.7.
Is that a baguette, not a bâtard? Again, you see, the French have so many different words for bread. Loaves, because there are so many different lengths and sizes and shapes.
Estimated, it would be 7,060.1 Martin Havens laid down side by side, or would be end to end, I'd hope, to complete a lap of Le Mans. We're on board with that D-Station car, and you can see the damage. So there's a lot of suspension damage.
Yeah.
So I'm going to assume that as much as we saw him pulling off, we saw Marc Veit pulling off coming into Indianapolis. I would suspect there was potentially something before even that that would have caused even more of a problem.
He's probably had a shunt under braking for Indianapolis and maybe had a wheel on the grass or something and it's just cannoned around.
Maybe
so
even
right.
corner. There was clearly something before what we saw though, so it is what it is.
Car is shown as stopped on our timing and scoring, but clearly it is not quite as stopped as some of the others.
Sorry, Martin Haven is 0.00193 of a kilometre.
Okay.
What a lovely way of putting it.
Yeah.
It makes it seem quite short when you say it like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, D-Station here being very, very smart and very, very patient. They understand that the race is definitely going against them now and being patient to allow all the traffic to come through safely before proceeding.
No, he's not though, is he, really? He's trying to get it to go again because it's decided to come to a halt.
I think they are waiting because you can see it is moving forward.
Yeah, the problem is
you're never going to get a clear bit.
Exactly. You're never going to get a clear bit of track. And also, who's going to be able to tell him, yeah, you're clear to go? Because he's doing 30 miles an hour. He's not clear to go. Everybody behind him is doing 160 miles an hour.
Yeah, let's see if they go now. Yes, there's no one coming through, and so you can see it's starting to move now. So they are waiting to go through. I would have said, just get on with it. But that's fine. Like I said, they're trying to be wise, they're trying to be safe, they're trying to, respectfully, they are trying to look out for everyone else's race here, rather than just their own. They understand their problems. Got to be careful on the inside here at on the old build that we always used to use of the Circuit de la Sarthe. There was a world hole.
Hang on a minute.
Where you can fall through there.
He didn't go off at Indianapolis, did he?
He pulled off at Indianapolis.
Well, why is he at the first chicane now?
Because he escaped back to pit lane. And then I don't know why. I don't know what happened there. Whether there was more of a technical fault or whatever. But
clearly there was. So he's actually left the pit lane with as much damage as he went in with.
Exactly. Because if you disconnect, your car will be in the same state, regardless of what the fuel number was or the damage number. So they would have had to have done a full lap with that damage. Who is driving the #1 car? Great question. It's Max Veit. Nope, it's Jeffrey Reetveld.
Have your brake too early, then actually the ability to shut everything down and go to sleep is very hard. And so you say, okay, right. You have 6 hours off. Well, you obviously don't, because by the time you leave the building, you're down to 5.5. By the time you get back to bed and actually get under the covers, you're down to 5 hours. Then you need to get up an hour beforehand so you can have a shower and try and wake up. And so you're down to 4 hours. And so, yes, that's how much sleep I've just had. But 4 hours is 4 hours and not to be sniffed at, and especially during the night time as well. D-Station now.
I've just been told something by them.
Yes.
They have.
By them.
Well, by Dan Rand, who came in just a second ago. So they had their screen blacked out when they had that incident.
Okay.
And the reason why they're crawling back so much is they're doing what Fernando Alonso probably should have done in the first running of the 24-hour Le Mans Virtual, which is if you have a low amount of fuel, go as slow as possible. They, at the moment, have half a litre to get back into their pit lane. And all that you will be telling yourself is, do not, I thought it cut out then, do not miss your box.
Do not run out of fuel.
If you go slightly too far and miss your box, you are out of the race.
Those boxes on the right-hand side, just as we go by them, those were the very posh sleepy boxes that Alan McNish had a few years ago. No, I mean, not all of them. He had one of them for his overnight stint, his overnight kit, while we were in the caravans.
He didn't have the in-speed tents. I hope no one wants to come into the pit lane soon. If I were race control, I'd be on. I hope they. Eduardo will probably be on the blower a little bit to the
see,
teams.
That's good. He's even cutting across the grass to be out of the way of somebody coming into the pit lane, and also to save himself a couple of meters.
Here we go. Oh, this is going to get dangerous. That's Arnage coming into the pit lane. Now, again, Marc Veit reads that one brilliantly, pulls over to one side.
Well, one of his teammates or an engineer, and it will be an engineer at D-Station. What is that car? What is that pale blue car?
Oh yeah,
because there's actually another one parked up at Arnage. That's really bugging me now.
I think they're just basic cars in game.
I know, but they must have modelled it on something.
Please get into his box. Honestly, this is the most tense that I've felt.
Who was it? One of the Redline
hours.
cars, we were told, came across the line at the end of qualifying with 0.4 of a litre left in the tank.
Yeah, Reetveld.
Because they'd judged it so perfectly. All right, so D-Station are back.
Well done. Well done. That's a good effort for D Station.
And the most fraught and most tedious part of their entire race has just happened. So yeah.
Unfortunately, I think the likelihood of them getting a decent result from this this race, that ship has very much sailed.
Yeah.
But they are still in the race. They still get to compete with the Le Mans Spirit, and also I think they have earned our respect. Yeah. I also wish we could hear Edouard.
It's possibly not the kindest location. There are a slew of LMP pit stops, by the way. Redline have been in through and gone. So too have the Porsche Coanda cars. Alpine, a little off strategy, have not yet, so they pop up to 3rd place. Might even possibly pop up higher than that. Both Redline, both Coandas have gone in. A whole bunch of other cars. Brabham we saw in the pit lane. Alpine are in. Who's that? Arnage. Car number 2. Team Redline, the overall victors here at Le Mans, ahead of the number 20 car from Porsche Coanda, and AMG Team Williams Esports, somehow having strung out the longest fuel stint in the field to hang on to that 3rd spot under really severe attack from Alpine. Still a great race from the 36 team. AMG Team Petronas in 5th. And the 23 Porsche Coanda rounds out the top half dozen ahead of car number 4 from Floyd Van Wall. Real disappointment, perhaps, in the LMP field. The retirement of the number 1 car there, disconnection issues, and also the engine failure for Fordzilla car number 966. They had such a great race from really not the most promising qualifying. They just absolutely hit it out of the park. No wonder they were gutted with that mechanical failure. Well, there are the rest of the teams. Pescarolo didn't get classified, nor did Redline or Fordzilla. Rocket Sim Sport were out early, sort of reappeared as a ghost apparition for a few laps and disappeared again. And connection issues put paid to our Le Mans Virtual Cup crew as well. In the GTE category, victory went to the pole sitters. R8G, the 888 Ferrari, just had enough to stay out of the clutches of the BMWs. Second, more than enough for Team Redline, whose game plan was just not to get into trouble and try and defend their overall title lead. They take the championship, but victory eludes them here at Le Mans. BS competition, a fine 3rd place, then a couple of Porsches from Project One and Coanda's surviving Proton car ahead of the next clutch of Ferraris from SIM Maranello and Simmsa. Satellite Racing, they've got to be pretty happy, I would reckon, with that 8th place finish ahead of Marla's BMW. And Oracle Red Bull, well, it wasn't their season and this wasn't their race. They finished just ahead of InSpeed, the Chinese team, really coming up and striking well here at Le Mans. ProDrive Firer led the race at one stage and then suffered misfortune. There was an issue as well, technically, for the D Station team that took them out of the middle of the lead group, the middle of the top 10, and dropped them down towards the bottom of the top 15.